And welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered series. And today we've got two very special guests. Woo!
Male guests.
We've got male guests. Woo!
We still had one male guest
we
before,
did.
but now we get two at the same time.
It's
Feels
true.
Special.
Yeah. If anybody doesn't get the joke, whether you're in YWAM or in the church, you'll understand that probably having male guests for anything is quite the minority, you know? I think we need a...
For now.
For now, exactly. There you go. We
speak hope.
Yes.
Yeah, we need more guys in all types of businesses, but especially in the Lord's business. Okay, getting funny. Anyways, so about our guests, we have... Who are you?
I'm Daniil.
Where are you from?
I'm from Greece.
Way.
So exotic.
Hey.
And who are you?
Joas from Switzerland.
From
Way.
Switzerland. Wow, he didn't even let me get to the second
He
question.
knew.
He was just so prepared. Thank you. No, it's
Such
good.
a European table.
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
All of us are European.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the tribe. So in this very special occasion, in this episode, we really wanted to dig into a topic which maybe is something kind of basic, but at the same time, I think we can go really deep, and we all have different experiences to kind of talk about this. So we're going to talk about hobbies and habits. And I know it seems like, okay, how do these kind of relate? But as we were talking before we started, like so many times we build habits based on our hobbies that they just kind of become one, and we struggle to differentiate what's good, what's bad, and also like at what point also am I putting God in the middle, you know? So yeah, that's kind of a preface to what we're going to talk about, but we're probably going to go to different directions as casual.
With these two, I feel like it could go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have different vibes going on for sure, but that's cool. It's keeping it interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, what
Questions, huh?
do you think?
Yeah, I think like Julie said, it's so important to well, also, and like we've talked about in other podcast episodes, we talk about how the point of the podcast is to talk about lifestyle with God, you know? And our hobbies are also kind of what make us who we are. Like they're sometimes God-given, or there's sometimes things that we just enjoy that is also sort of from God, even if it's not a super holy thing necessarily, you know? So even though it might seem like a basic topic, it's also like sort of interwoven into who we are as people. And I think a hobby says a lot about you, no? So guys, what are some hobbies that you have? Like, what is something you're really passionate about besides Jesus? We know you're passionate about Jesus, but like hobby wise, you know?
I have two hobbies that I would like to share about that are not really connected. But one is football and sports in general.
Yeah.
And the other one would be baking. Two different directions. There we go.
Do you like to bake footballs?
What?
Never tried that. No.
Do you like to kick cakes?
Hey, that's a good one.
No.
We're off to a great start. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. No worries. No, they are very different, but I think I enjoy them in like separate settings in different seasons of my life, especially. So
Wow.
yeah.
Have you always liked football and sports?
No, I think it mainly came bigger for me since moving to England. Yes,
interesting.
which England
For
is
champions.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's coming home.
Hey.
No,
Come
but
on,
yeah,
England.
obviously, like England is full of people who love football and are really passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I think I got influenced a bit into it and into watching it, playing it, and yeah, I think I started really enjoying it then.
Yeah.
Baking is something that I did a lot before already. Actually, I think I started enjoying anything that has to do with cooking, baking, while I was on holidays with my at my grandmother's.
Oh, that's cute.
So there was not really like that much else that like we would be doing apart from like cooking and baking. So I just really started enjoying it, and then I don't know, like the idea of creating something that can taste really good.
Yes.
I like the baking, but also the eating part. So
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the eating
Obviously.
part is the
Yeah.
best part, honestly.
Yeah.
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 Wow, very interesting.
Yeah.
And you, Daniil, what are some hobbies you have?
My hobbies is like playing guitar and drawing.
Wow.
Yeah, I was playing guitar and drawing as a young kid. Yeah, like drawing in the street usually. I was graffiti artist.
Is it
No.
okay that you just said that on a public platform?
I don't have nothing to hide.
Ha.
It's okay.
We didn't release your last name, so it's fine.
No worries. Yeah, and I play guitar also.
Well, cool. Or is that also something that was influenced? Like for Joas, for example, it was influenced by people around him. Was it the same for you?
Yeah, probably the both of them was a trend when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's something in your family? Like you have musicians
Yeah,
or
my
artists?
mom was playing piano and my father was playing a guitar.
Cool.
So yeah,
Wow.
I get more influenced by my parents and the friends also.
Yeah.
But the artist, like graffiti artist, it was more like on the moment on my age, teenager. Like all the guys was spray painting, but I keep it doing on the streets
Wow.
for many years.
Oh, cool.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. Julie, do you have any hobbies?
See, I find this question really difficult because I would say I love hobbies in general because they're a pastime, right? Something that you do like to spend time.
Yeah.
But then you've got things that maybe you'd see more as like, this is my skill, my talent, you know?
Yeah.
So if I was to say what I think my hobbies are, I think it'd be very different from what these guys just said.
Oh.
Because I feel like hobbies is more like something that could be like you're like, okay, like I'm going to step out and do this like because I enjoy it, you know? So I'd say that I really like watching interesting videos that
Oh my gosh.
that are very either informational or very just random. You know, like for example,
I can give an example for you. One time
The
I
friend.
walked in the living room. This was ridiculous. So one time I walked in the living room and Julie is like sucked into her phone watching something. And I was like, my Lord, this must be very interesting. And I go and look.
It really was.
She is watching like 2 hour long documentary on YouTube about how to take the rust off a medieval sword.
Okay, yeah, it was very interesting. Okay, it was
never know
very,
when you're
very
gonna use it.
interesting. I don't know. You
And she
might
was
find
like
a moment.
an hour and 15 minutes in, like she had.
But I
committed
always
to
watch on
this
fast speed.
video.
Okay, so it's not like I'm wasting 2 hours of my day.
What a
Yeah,
hobby.
yeah. So I would say that that's like a pastime. You know, like watching
Yes.
random things, reading random. I really love to read.
Yes.
I think I struggle a lot more to like pick up a book and read.
Yeah.
But just because I struggle to commit and I get bored really easily, so I like to jump into the next thing, which is why I'd like read, I don't know, maybe a post or some sort of article about something. But in regards to like, I guess like skills or things like that you could say are more like stereotypical hobbies. I grew up doing sports, but I think I went a bit more to the art side and I've explored with anything and I love like a little bit of everything. I get bored really easily, so I've always like tried one thing and moved on to the next and tried one thing and moved to the next. So I love photography, I love film. I like drawing. Haven't tried too much in the last few years, so I think I'm a bit rough. I love baking. I love cooking more than baking, I think. I think
Not a
it's...
sweet tooth.
I'm not so much of a sweet tooth. I think that's what it is. But it's also like you have to be a lot more precise when it comes to baking than you do when it comes to cooking. So, yeah, I don't know. What about you, Mans?
Oh.
You weren't expecting that.
No, I
but-
wasn't expecting that to come
You were
back.
like-
I thought I was the question asker.
Well, I guess we're all sharing, so...
I'm such a complicated girl. I really am. Because I just struggle to have hobbies. Because gosh, I'm really gonna expose myself here. So what happens
I mean,
when
you
have-
exposed me.
I'm
so.
processed. The thing is similar to Julie. Like I have a lot of things that I like to do, and I have things that I can develop as a hobby. But in terms of like how I rest, because I think hobbies are like also how you rest, how you enjoy life.
Exactly.
I struggle to do both of those things because I not because I struggle like as in enjoying life is bad or something like that, but I tend to put like my duties above my enjoyment of life, if that makes sense. So it's actually a question I was going to ask at one point, because I find that like I'm trying to be a reader. Like, I don't know, I feel like, I should take more time to read, that rather than watching movies or sleeping during movies. I feel like some people might attack me for my sleeping in movies, but anyway,
No, it's not true.
rather than sleeping in movies, I don't know, I thought, well, you know, maybe I'll try to read. And there's times that I open a book to read and I'm like, but if I'm reading, I should be reading my Bible, you know? Like, I don't know, there's a part of me that's like, oh, shoot. So sometimes it's hard for me to think of my hobbies, because I'm in a season, which if you watched our last episode, you're going to know about this. But I'm in a season of learning what it looks like to rest and enjoy life and have hobbies. But I enjoy like working out or going for runs or different things like that. I just don't personally make a lot of space for it, which needs to change. So maybe this conversation will inspire me, you know? Which I think leads me actually to my next question. So thanks, Jules.
You're welcome.
Which is like, in the midst of your hobbies and things as men of God and a woman of God and another woman of God. But anyway, the point is to interview you guys. As men of God, like how are you able to kind of see God in these hobbies? Like not because you're, I don't know, like baking a cake for the Lord, you know, though it can happen, but like, in what ways have you kind of even allowed God to teach you something about his character in the things that your hobbies are? Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah, of course. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
All right, let's go.
I feel it's easy for me because like the both of my hobbies are art. So God like is art. God create the art. So through the both of hobbies I see God, like even through music. Like in the beginning I was playing like rock song. I was solo like rock songs and only I was never like have God inside the guitar. And after many years God, like I found God through guitar. I started worshiping God and I start see God through my music. And it's the same with the graffiti art. I was painting the streets, now I can paint on canvas and like make a nice canvas.
That we're going to be doing that soon.
Yep.
Yep.
A fist bump happened for those that are listening and not watching. It was great.
I feel in art is like two sides. You can take like kind of the bad side, like vandalize the walls outside on the street, or like play bad music and worship like the devil.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you found the light.
Yeah.
You bring God into it.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
And I guess what like also I think what you're kind of underlining is that like what really depends or what makes your hobby like more aligned to God is like what is your foundation for what you're doing. So the purpose as to why I'm doing what I'm doing and what I'm doing it for. So
and like from the both of hobbies I can give glory to God.
Yeah.
From the both of those hobbies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Come on.
Cool. What about for you, Joas?
Yeah. Well, I think I experienced God through my hobbies. Like I encounter God like in many different settings. Like I encounter God like I find him speaking in my showers. I find him speaking like obviously when I do my quiet times, when I read my Bible. But I think there's not like such a thing as like a holy activity and an unholy one, because I think that's something that is so anchored in Christians' beliefs that there's like some things that are like just very holy and spiritual, and some other things that are like just secular, you know. And I find that actually I experience God, or at least I have the capacity of experiencing God in real like life things, you know, like hobbies or work or things like that. I think it does take more like intention. It takes to be intentional to put God in the center in that, and also like recognize him and just like be in his presence. But it's just as possible. So yeah, I'm very much of a like more of a practical type of person. So I love like doing things rather than, I don't know, some people are amazing at like getting so much from reading a book, maybe Julie,
maybe,
or like sitting in a teaching and there's these big revelations that drop on them and on me as well. But I think I find myself like experiencing God more as well through through different things. And and God is speaking to me for sure, like while I play football or just after I play football, and or while I'm baking. Definitely, I receive a lot.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, there's a hobby that I didn't mention that I like to do.
Add it to the list.
Sorry, add it to the list. And that's gardening. I really love gardening. And I think, you know, sometimes people get really cheesy with it, especially in church, you know, like God is the gardener and I am the rose, whatever, you know. But I've learned so much through just doing something so practical and connecting with God in a completely different way. And I think the like what you're saying of like actually inviting God to be a part of what we sometimes segregate as being the holy thing and the non-holy thing, making God a part of that and having connection with him and conversations with him that maybe at first are unnatural, but then afterwards it just becomes interwoven and just one, and you can't see that thing without God. It's like, you know, like how cool would it be if, you know, if you were a professional football player, that like you wouldn't be able to play football without like God being there, you know. It's like you can't even think about the two, because it's just like because you've established such a ground to where the two are one, that it's just that's what it is, you know. That's, of course, I think that's cool.
I really like what you said as well about the holy and unholy kind of thing, because I feel like even in my example, I struggle with that, you know, but I think it's a really interesting concept, because I think when we have like a worldview that, okay, this activity is holy and this activity is not holy, then we end up giving time either equally or like in some kind of percentage, you know, like, okay, I give 80% of my time to my holy activities and 20% of my time to my unholy activities. But then not talking about unholy, like impure, but like the things without God or something like that, you know? But then of course, like maybe that 20% are things that we actually really enjoy. And so then little by little, it takes up more space in your heart or in your life or in your attention or whatever. And then suddenly it can be kind of consuming and it can kind of become a God. Like if God is not a part of it, at least this is my experience, right? Like if God is not a part of it, then, and yet I'm giving a lot of my time, a lot of my effort, a lot of my love to it, then it can sort of like become a God in my life, you know? It can become also a part of my identity. Like when I was in high school, I played not professional sports, but very competitive sports. Also in uni. And to be honest, I didn't know what my life was without that sport. Like
what
it
was
like,
that sport?
Played lacrosse. For those that don't know, it's like a stick with like a net and you run around. Very similar to like hockey, like ice hockey, but in the air. It's very exciting. And I had a lot of fun with it, but it was like, who am I if I don't play that, you know? And it consumed all my time, all of my thought process. Like it was like everything for me. But at the same time, I was Christian. But at the same time, like, if you look, like the Bible says, like where your heart lies, that's where your treasure is, you know? And so it's like, if I look at actually what I'm spending my time doing, it was not that much with God. And it was a lot more with lacrosse, which is not necessarily a bad thing if God was in the middle of that, you know? So I really like what you're saying about that, because sometimes I think we can be so black and white about things. And it's actually much more about the gray area in the middle, you know? So how do you do that? Like, how do you bring practically, you know, you're a practical guy. How do you actually bring God into it? Because even with the girls earlier, we were talking about how we struggle actually to have quiet time in the shower. You know, like we have a leader in our base, Joselo, shout out to Joselo, who will like come downstairs and he'll be like, I just had the most amazing revelation in the shower. And I'm like, well, I go to the shower and I'm on autopilot. You know, I'm just like just doing my thing. So practically then, how do you bring God in? Because I imagine, for example, on a football field, when there's a fight because the competition is strong, like how do you bring God into those moments, you know?
Well, definitely it takes to be intentional. I think it's not something that you have, well, you can disciple yourself in a certain like level, like disciple your thoughts, and I like also some things are like in you, you know, like the way you are behaving on the pitch, the way you are speaking to people, the way you are treating like each other in general and loving. That is something that you don't necessarily just work on the pitch, but that is like cultivated from even before. But also I think speaking to God, but more than that, just I think I try to just like enjoy the time, but also like I feel like God is like speaking to me through like different circumstances that happen, you know, and like even like shaping me, and maybe it's not something that I'm so aware of while I'm playing football, you know, like I make a pass and like I'm like, wow, I can see so much of God in that, but it's more like I feel like after games, like God like stirs something in me, you know, like did you see what happened here, like maybe you need to go apologize to that person for like what you did or something like that, you know, and more than like several times I did, you know, or go talk to someone or like say, hey, like the way you spoke, like I don't know, is everything okay? It didn't seemed a bit off. So I think there's definitely something like that, but I think in general it's something that you cultivate, not necessarily like on the pitch, because it's something that if we talk about hobbies, if we talk about football, it's something that is not only there, it's in your work, in like life in general, whatever you do, if it's not an activity that we again like call as like holy activity, that is like built in a way to like bring us closer to God, to seek Him, or to be intentional in that regard. That is something that we need to do, like to us be doing intentionally. So that means whether you're on your workplace, whether you are I don't know, on the toilet or in the shower or wherever, like it has to be something that is constantly there.
Because everything is a process, so you can't just like when it comes to baking, you can't just have a cake without having your ingredients and then making a batter and then waiting for it to be in the oven, right? So there's no point to also have God only be with you and apply, you know, godly principles or God into your life when you're just out in the pitch, when you need to win, right? When you need to perform. But actually, like, the important thing, as you were saying, I love that example of like when you notice that your attitude is wrong or somebody's attitude was like unstable, to actually go afterwards and actually fix that. You know, I think many times, especially when it comes to sport or when it comes even to baking or whatever it is, even with art, you're always looking at like the final product. You're looking at what you do, right? That it's okay. But how do you like actually make things better? Because it's not always about how it looks. It's also about the process that got you there and the process that's going to get you to the next thing as well. You know, so it is about the process all throughout. Wow, this fly is like really in my business. Sorry. But yeah, I don't know.
I think, just something that is a curiosity, I think, for me, especially talking about holy and unholy, and what you're talking about with more in the present, you know, how to like mix those two. But Daniil, you're sharing a bit of your testimony of how you had these hobbies that were, I'm going to say this so aggressively, I'm so sorry,
okay.
but like were used for evil in some ways, not for evil, but like for something that wasn't glorifying to God. And then as God transformed your heart outside of your hobbies, you saw Him bring back those hobbies in a really healthy way. Like, what was that process like for you?
It was interesting and hard. Like, it's interesting because like from the evil way, like you see something else and you want to explore the other way because it's like more better, more interesting, brings glory to God, brings you happiness, and I like it. It was beautiful. Like start like having ideas on my mind, like make art for Jesus, like it's different way. Like, and I remember I was starting like make graffitis like faith, hope, love, or like the name of Jesus. Then I start like find a Christian song and worship God, like, and it's like and transformation, like from the evil, like go to the holy way, as Joas said.
Was that difficult for you with music? Because I feel like with music, it's everywhere. There's secular music, you know, and we can really enjoy secular music, and sometimes Christian music can be a little bit cheesy.
No, it was not difficult because like it brings you peace. It brings you peace. Like I believe like music is an open door to the enemy.
Wow.
Like we can listen a lot of things, but we have to be careful what we put in our ears, like because many of the songs we listen
100%,
worship the enemy.
Yep.
Sure.
And you can feel that on the rest of your day or the rest of the week, the month. You can understand that something wrong's inside of my ears, you know. And when you start worshiping God through your music, then you feel the peace and you feel different. And it's the same with drawing.
Yeah.
Because for me, drawing, when I draw on my home, on the paper, gives me a lot of. I forget everything. Like nothing is around me. It's like only me and the art.
Yeah.
And it's more beautiful when you do art for God. Like.
Yeah, 100%. No, it's so true. I mean, it's so easy to associate or assimilate certain things with how they can affect me or influence me in a certain way when they're so literal. Like a bad cake. Sorry, I'm going to keep coming back to your baking, But like whenever you have a bad, like a stale cake, right? The flavor just like stays with you. And especially if it was rotten. The other day, some of the guys that work at another coffee shop brought like a cheesecake and it was rotten, Sorry, not calling out the cafe or anything. I'm just saying that cheesecake was old. It was rotten, right? And when you eat something that's rotten or whatever, like it has a bad taste. But when you know that it's rotten before you eat it, you're going to say, I don't want that, right? So why is it so different when it comes to music? You do you know what I mean? Or why is it so different when it comes to other art or other mediums and platforms or other things, you know? We look at it as being rotten, but for some way, like it's like made attractive. So there's certain things that we're like, okay, I'll eat it this one time. I'll have it this one time, you know? But we're actually consuming something that was made by somebody else that has ingredients that they put a lot of thought and effort into, but we don't know the full ins and outs of that, you know? How many times have you eaten a cake? Like, okay, this is so random. But the other day, I found out that this juice that I love from Argentina has soy milk. Yeah, okay.
Disgusting.
I hate alternative milks. I absolutely hate them. If you know me, you know I hate alternative milks. If you like them, it's okay. We can be friends still, but I will judge you.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Because God made animals that produce milk. So why are you going to go? Anyways, another topic.
Vegans are going to be up in our comments like crazy.
Comment below if you disagree.
All the oat flat white people in the room.
Well, let's start a war. No, but I had no idea that this drink that I loved so much had this thing that I dislike, you know, that I'm like, oh, that just tastes disgusting. You give me a coffee and it has soy milk or oat milk and I'll taste it and I'll be like, oh, no, that's awful. But with this drink, it had soy milk and I had no idea. And I grew up eating it and like even up until this day, like it's my favorite drink, you know, it's a juice. But I would have never known that it had that if nobody would have ever told me. Do you know what I mean? And so sometimes we think that we know that thing that is bad for us, but we actually don't really know fully the ingredients that are behind something. And also we don't know how much they can affect us. So many times it's actually like us tricking ourselves in our own mind also, saying like, I don't like this because it's not good music or it's not Christian music. But even sometimes within Christian music, the people who are making them are also consuming other things, and so that Christian music isn't necessarily always living up to the standard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. And also, as you're asking for the process, like, I think this is something extra or something else. Like the process to get out of all these things is even hard because you have to leave behind all your friends, everything. You have to be like kind of different, you know. Not different. It's like for us something physical, but the world is different. Oh, you're like. Don't paint anymore in the street. You're not a graffiti artist, or you don't listen like this music anymore. Like, it's beautiful now, but to come here and say it's beautiful is hard. And it needs process again and again because I still listen like non-Christian music. You know. I want to listen my music like 2 hours of the day, having like no bad music, but
It's true.
I don't know how else to explain it.
I think the process is really hard because, and this kind of segues into the second half of our conversation, which is that our hobbies tend to come with habits, you know? So in the same example I was saying before about sports, like it took me a long time to be able to work out or exercise or do physical activity without the same like competitive mind that I had before. Not competitive with people, but competitive with myself, you know, like I must run my fastest mile, or like I must be able to lift. I don't know. You just build something, you know? So it's like a habit in my mind that formed because of a hobby that I had, you know? And so similarly with music, you're listening to secular music or drawing, graffiti, whatever, like you have a hobby that then comes with habits, especially by the people who have influenced you and things like that. So I don't know if you have any habits that develop from cake eating or baking.
Well, too
or
much of it is not so good.
Maybe some extra kilos.
Or maybe you identify more with like the athletic side or with another hobby that you have. But habits that can form because of hobbies, you know, something that started really actually good and sort of something God, like I said at the beginning, wove into who we are. But then out of influence or out of our own bad choices or I don't know, whatever thing, a bad habit can develop or habits that can turn bad develop. Have you guys experienced that?
Yeah.
You want to share about it at all?
Yeah,
it's like very vulnerable for this unfiltered podcast.
But it's unfiltered, so we keep it
said yes.
What did I sign up for?
Sorry, this wasn't on the question list.
But I think honestly, some of those habits can be amazing. I think, especially when we talk about sports, I think like sports and like any type of movement is necessary. Like if you're not having sports, but like at least you need to have some kind of physical activity like in your life. But so in that regard, I think that's a great habit. I think for me, something that I've been really challenged with is to set my priorities straight, because like football can never become like the reason why I wake up in the morning, you know? Like, and it can become really big. I think there's nothing against that. I think God in his heart, he is full of passion, and we are made in his image, and we were made to be passionate as well. And for sure passionate about God and godly things, but also like about other things, about the sunset, about playing with each other, relating to each other. It's true. Eating, what a gift from God to be tasting like a good cake or something.
Praise God for taste buds, you know?
Exactly,
Come on.
But I think, again, like this is all about like the priorities, where I need to put like God first. And not only God, but also like God and then others as well. Like, I can't just like give up on my commitments anywhere and say, I'm just gonna go play football, you know. Like I have to first honor like my other commitments, and then like football is something as we say a hobby, but like
But even in the football pitch, like how hard is it for you, for example? Because we're talking about like especially here in the UK or even European leagues and stuff, like it's all, especially when it comes to football, it's always about like the banter and the like talking bad about the other team or the other players, or highlighting what they're not good at doing or whatever. There's always a lot of like bad mouthing and trash talk in American English, right? Trash talk.
Rubbish talk.
But like how do you handle that? Because I think many times also it's so difficult to go against the wave, right? In the other direction of like, well, everybody else is kind of doing the same thing, so or like also you're like in the heat of the moment, and so like somebody tackles you and you just want to be like, what the F? Right?
Or punch him.
Or punch him.
No to violence.
I do find myself like many times frustrated, either with the way I play or with the way like people like play or whatever. I think, to be honest, cursing was never like something that I was doing. It's just not part of my vocabulary, I think. I don't know.
It's too good. He's too good.
No, I don't know. It's just not something that would come naturally. But I think, obviously, like it is something that can like influence people when you like talk bad at them, and obviously it's not an atmosphere you want to be in, and you have to be intentional with like the choice of your words. And of course, like as I said, like many times I had to go and say, hey, look, I'm sorry for my attitude, or to the referee as well, like, hey, sorry for complaining about your decision. Like, it's just like the heat of the game. But I think also like something that is great about like English people is that it stays on the pitch. Like usually like people don't really take it so much personally, and at the end of the game you're like, hey, like, okay, this is what happened, sorry, or whatever. And you're like, yeah, no worries, don't worry, like, it's fine.
For
Even
anybody
though,
who's not
like,
used to
on
that,
the
it's
pitch,
weird.
in the action, like people would like be
They will
ready
fight.
to of course. But yeah, it's something that as you say, it's a process we have to grow in. But that's also something that I find like beautiful, because that gives you the opportunity to actually sharpen your character, and that is like a real life type of feeling that you're gonna have anywhere, you know, like, and that you have the opportunity to work on. So
Wow,
that's deep. That's a really good one. Like to use those things as a place to be refined rather than just whatever. That's really good. Daniil, what about you? In your habits, in
the smile.
Yeah.
I don't know, like my habits through the art like was like my habits like not the habits through the
Like did you need to see a lot of your habits changed as you like brought God into your hobbies more?
Yes, for sure, because my life changed when I was bringing God through my hobbies, like because like when we be out in the streets, we drink, like we smoking, also with music, like it's like you follow you influenced by the musicians. They smoke, they drink, so you do the same thing. You say, oh, it's cool, I will do the same thing because they did that. And it's the same with the graffiti art in the streets. You drink, you smoke, drugs and everything. But I agree a lot with Joas, like through this process, like also God build your character as you change, like that's the habits I was having. Like I was having habits, I was not away from habits as Joas probably, he was more powerful.
Powerful Joas. I think I have one more question just to kind of draw us to a close. And it's something you guys have already mentioned in some ways. You've brought a lot of like really good stuff to this podcast, but in case there's somebody joining our table, like we say in the podcast, you know, the seat is for you, you know, who is either like in the process of like taking their ungodly hobbies and bringing them to be godly. So they're in that process and that in between. Or maybe they're listening and they're like, shoot, I really never bring God onto the football pitch. Like I just, like what is one piece of advice? You've mentioned like being intentional. You guys have mentioned things already, but if like we could leave one like mic drop piece of advice for someone, like what would you give for somebody like in the middle of that process? Does that make sense, my question? What do you think?
I would say, to be honest, like if you want to start with something, first of all, like I think like if you struggle with like with that and with bringing God like everywhere you go and in the daily activities, I think that something that first of all, don't let condemnation come in, because it's not going to help you. But also I think very practically about football, I think if you just like take 5 minutes after your game, once like the heat is a bit off, to just reflect on what happened, on like why you got annoyed, why you got frustrated, why you talked like this to this person, why or like how was your attitude, like where was your pride level at, like that kind of things, you know, where like how did your competitivity like influence you to treat others, all that kind of questions that you can reflect on once the heat is a bit like lower, you know. It's always a bit easier, and let God speak into those moments as well, you know. Ask God like, okay, how was it, you know, how can you grow as well, and if you take like also a bit of a habit of just that, you know, that will definitely already start a change as well in the way you will play, in the way like you will influence people, and I believe that can make a difference already.
It's great. It's really good. Daniil, what do you think?
For me, it's like, do not give up, because it's a process. Like, you have to. Jesus is still there, and He will love you. And if Jesus sees you that you're going closer to Him, even if you fall, He will help you to move on. You have to stand like in this process. You know, many times we make a big step and then we fall, and then we get up and then we fall. The point for me is to stand like where we are, like keep going closer to God, and God is there and He walks with us, and He will help us to go closer to Him. That's my topic for me. Like, don't give up. Don't give up. The easiest thing is to give up. Because many times we fail and we say, okay, we listen those voices inside of our head, and usually it's the enemy try to speak to us like wrong words. And it's the moment that we feel, okay, like God don't love me, but God still loves you and still is there. The only thing you have to do is stand and keep walking closer to God. That's the process for me. And it's the moment where God like builds you and changes your character, and then you are stronger to walk and walk and walk. That's for me the topic.
Wow.
Great.
Really, final words or no?
Yeah, I think one thing I'd say is that especially when it comes to habits, sometimes we don't realize that they're a habit, you know? And so I think we need to be willing to let God undo what we've built, especially when it comes to art or when it comes to anything that we have a sort of profession or experience in. It's so easy to like already be accustomed and do things in a specific way. So to be willing to like unlearn what we've learned and to get us to a point where we question ourselves, we question our understanding, and we bring God into that questioning and say, God, is this okay? Is this still aligned with you, and is this still reflecting you? You know, because many times I think that's why we kind of go darker and deeper in, you know, when it comes to anything, you know, because we have completely removed ourselves from God. We think that because we've already gone through that stage, it's fine, you know.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow, so good, guys. Is it okay if I close?
Yeah, sure.
Guys, this was amazing. I think always, Julie, it's great to have you. That's why you're on the podcast. But the guys, I just want to say thank you so much, because I feel like you really reflected God's heart, like as a father, as a man, to talk about no condemnation and talk about not giving up when you could have been. You brought a lot of practical elements, but you also could have taken it a really different direction. But in that, you really reflect the love of God, which I think is so powerful. So we chose the right people for this podcast. You guys have been amazing. We're so thankful for you. So that's it for this podcast episode. Thanks for watching or listening or whatever you've been doing, and come back for the next one.
Thank you. Bye.